Hey everyone, welcome to our second vlog. Today we're going to go through the process of how you can subscribe to a podcast and just go through all the different platforms that we're now on. So at first, I think we're only on SoundCloud and the podcast app for Apple, but now we're on pretty much all the mainstream platforms. But if after this video, we still haven't gone over your platform and how to describe, let us know.
Yeah, so guys, what we're going to do, we're going to cover how to find us on 5 different podcasting platforms today. So iTunes, if you have an iPhone or you just use Mac products, SoundCloud, which a lot of people use for music, Spotify, only mobile Spotify, but we're going to go through all this on the iPhone, and it's similar on the Android. The other two are Podbean and Overcast.
Spotify all the way.
Look guys, check us out. In the end, we just want to be able to help you listen to any podcast. Angus and I are also going to discuss what we use to record our podcast, ways we get guests on, and how we edit and host our podcast. So click the subscribe button to stay up to date with our podcast, what we're doing, our road to the Commonwealth Games, athletes we interview, and generic sort of day-to-day sporting vlogs and training vlogs that we'll do ourselves.
It's weird that you get money for putting your music on the Apple iTunes app, but you don't get it on the podcast app.
Look, they'll develop it.
I wonder if Rogan gets it.
Rogan would get everything. I'm sure he has shares in Apple.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so first we're going to go over iTunes, which is everyone has. If you have an iPhone, it's guaranteed to be on there. It comes for free. It's one of those annoying apps that if you don't use it, you can't delete it. So it's come in, obviously unlock your iPhone. So we post the link for this in our bio. Just click that podcast app there. Everyone has it. So if you can't find that, you just go up here, you'll search podcast, and it'll come straight up. Okay, so now you'll come into here, which is new shows. Yours won't have any of this. If you're new to podcasting, click search in the bottom right, up to the top, and just search high performance podcast. And we should always come up pretty quick, otherwise you might have to type in the full amount. So then click that, the full amount, oh my God. And then here our podcast comes up here. So the latest episode will be the first one, and then there'll be some popular ones below that. So if you click see all, you'll see all our podcasts there. If you click up here, and a subscribe button will come up there. So click that and then you can listen. You just go plus and you can download. Okay, so next up, the next two I'll show you are pretty straightforward. You just find these in the App Store. You just search podcast and the main ones should come up. Podcast. And then you'll get the most popular ones. So the two of the most popular ones that are free, that a lot of people use, are Overcast and Podbean. Overcast you can open up. Same thing again, you can just search high performance podcast. You only ever really have to type in high performance for ours to come up. So you can click subscribe there, and then you can go through and listen to the episodes. And then of course the next one, again, easy to download through the App Store, and you can get these both on Android, Apple, whatever format you're using for your phone, Podbean. So you can just click open there. I've already searched, as you can see. Pretty simple search, high performance. I'll even type it in again to show you how easy it is. High performance, search, there it comes up right there, so you can subscribe or follow us there. The comments help a lot as well. So loving the feed, guys, keep up the good work. Butter Surfer Bum. So all that stuff helps us out a lot heaps. The other two that we'll go through are SoundCloud and also Spotify.
Hey guys, I like to listen to most of my things on Spotify, so that's podcasts, and I think you can do audiobooks and music, whatever. I like Spotify because I think they pay a good amount and support the people who are creating content for their platform. Also, if you want to stream some of my band's old music, look up The Maze, trying to crack that 1 million streams, and we just dropped our last EP. But we broke up over a year ago, so don't get excited about anything new. Anyway, so you just go search. Oh wait, we gotta show you the app. This is what the icon looks like. Spotify. You can get that from the App Store on Android and on the Apple App Store. And then you just go into the regular search section, HYP. You get the rest. And then it will just come up under podcasts. So you hit that, then you just hit that follow, and then it will notify you every time a new episode comes out. Last one up's the OG platform, where you might remember uploading some of your primitive mixes back in the high school days if you're an aspiring DJ like myself. And I think SoundCloud, from what I hear, is in a little bit of trouble at the moment. But apparently Chance the Rapper, like, invested a whole heap of money into it and saved it or something. So anyway, you just go into SoundCloud. Again, you just don't need to look for the podcast section. It'll come up with everything else. Type in High Performance. Comes up pretty quickly because we pretty much run SoundCloud nowadays. 46 followers. Blowing the fuck up. And then they're all just there. You can hit follow. I don't really like SoundCloud, the app, to be honest, but yeah. Give it a crack if it's your thing.
Okay, so now questions I get quite regularly about hosting a podcast, what we use on our podcast. Questions I get quite regularly about podcasting and us hosting, I thought I'd answer now. I've sort of accumulated some over the year. 1 year. We've been podcasting just over 1 year. So what equipment we use? We use a Zoom Q8. So we were originally using it for our YouTube videos, but the audio is just really good. So not everyone has to wear a headset. You can point it at 3 or 4 sort of people. It's made to record bands, so it records really good audio. Visual, it has a wide angle lens, so it's okay, but the quality's not super great.
It's also not that great as a webcam. What we ended up finding out is that even the latest iPhone, just using that for the live stream to Facebook at least, is better than plugging that Zoom in and using it as a webcam, because that's kind of what it's marketed as a substitute for a webcam. But
and for what you pay for it as well, is 550 Australian dollars.
The mic is really great.
So the mic's really good. It's versatile for us. So that's what we use to record our podcast. Down the track, obviously, we'll have a studio set up when our guests can come in, and then to record audio off like FaceTimes and stuff we just strategically place the camera in front of us. So the mic's behind it. The camera is looking at us, my phone or whatever device we're using to Skype or FaceTime the guests, so we can see them, and then it'll collect audio because we speak a bit louder than the speaker, so you can play around with the levels there, and that's quite good. I know some other people use programs.
Will probably also be on live as well, just joining us on that.
Yeah, exactly. So live's a good way to get it out there.
Isn't too bad. And I feel like Facebook's just going to make it better and better because they're pumping it so hard.
Definitely. So that's what we use, equipment we use. And then editing, I just use GarageBand. It's super simple. Obviously, as time goes on, we're constantly developing what we're using. And our host site, we were using SoundCloud. The analytics and destinations weren't as vast. So now we use Libsyn. I think we pay $30 Australian a month, which is very reasonable. And it sends ours out to all the major podcasting destinations, and you can also add ones on if you want as well. You can link embedded links to your website or whatever you want. So yeah,
don't get discouraged though. Well, not that our setup's sick, it's still pretty primitive, but we actually did the first 5 episodes, or maybe not the first 5, but we even did a couple just with my iPhone because Oscar ended up forgetting to hit record. All iPhones past like the iPhone 4 have a dynamic mic in them, and like, yeah, they're surprisingly good. Especially if it's just a couple people sitting around a table. It totally does the job fine. Doesn't really pick up much background noise as long as you don't have the aircon on too loud.
Really just think of your surroundings. So is the room quiet? Is there a lot of background noise? Just simple things you can avoid. And apart from that, my number 1 tip for podcasting will be think how much you say yeah in response to the guests or even your co-host questions and statements, because it doesn't sound good on audio.
Just if you do have a co-host, just try to do one by yourselves and then listen back to it.
Yeah.
Most people are self-conscious enough to pick up on most of the things that they're not happy with.
Yeah, and another thing we want to
try not to let other people critique you too much, but because at the end of the day, you got to be yourself.
Definitely.
Most people give really bad advice.
Okay, so now we're just going to quickly go through our phones and tell you guys the top 5 podcasts that Angus and I both listen to. Number 1 in order of my favourites would be The Fighter and the Kid. A friend first got me into that one. It's really good, funny, lighthearted. They get on good guests. Then Brendan Schaub, who's half of The Fighter and the Kid, he does the Big Brown Breakdown. I would say that and Angus mainly got me into mixed martial arts, mainly UFC. The third would be I was real hot on The Athletic Experience by Tom Fitzsimons, who's a really solid American deck athlete. He gets a lot of good track and field guests on. And then that led me to the Altus podcast, again, because I'm a track and field fan. And I imagine a lot of you guys, if you've found your way here, you're also a track and field fan. The fifth one would be Short Story Long by Chris Drama Faf. So he was on that show with Rob Dyrdek on MTV, and he gets a lot of people on who are just startup guys, fashion guys. He's had Kyrie Irving on there. Pretty cool guest, in my opinion. So that's what that looks like there. If the camera focuses. Yeah, Short Story Long. Check that out.
Alright, so the main ones I listen to, obviously got to give respects to the podfather Joe Rogan. I know he can be, like, a lot of people talk a lot of shit about Rogan, but even if you're not the biggest fan of the way he interviews people, just the sheer quality and variety of guests is sick. There's also the 10 Minute podcast, which has had a whole bunch of guys like Chris D'Elia, Brian Callen used to be on it, and that's heaps funny. I've listened to a fair few comedy podcasts actually. There's not that much sport or performance. My favourite podcast at the moment is Bill Burr's Monday Morning Podcast. That's honestly been my favourite podcast for like over a year. It comes out Mondays and Thursdays, and it's just essentially him ranting to his phone, but it's great. He's one of the best comedians in the world right now, in my opinion. And then Joey Diaz's podcast is just outrageous. He gets some pretty good guests on, like rappers and things like that. He's great mates with all the guys from Cypress Hill, so good guests. He's had Action Bronson on. That was one of the most hilarious podcasts I've ever listened to in my life. And one more I'll give you. I don't mind Ben Pekulski's podcast every now and then, Muscle Expert podcast. I think every now and then some of the guys he gets on are too focused on things that might help us in training in like 20 years, but it's still interesting to sort of think about those things and the possibilities of what might lie ahead in human performance.
Okay guys, there you have it. Those are our tips for podcasting, what we listen to, how to download a podcast. If you have any other questions, write them in the comments section below. The link to our podcast for iTunes and SoundCloud I'll also put in the description box. And if you like what you see, thanks to everyone that's already subscribed, make sure you subscribe and share the love. Guys, we'll see you in our next vlog.
Yes.